So you don't know where to start with your ISO 27001 project. You don't know what it takes to succeed with this kind of a project. You know, working with thousands of companies that implemented ISO 27001, I actually concluded that there are a couple of things that you need to know before starting this project, and this is what I'll present in this video today. So what are the main options for implementing the standard? How long does it take? How much does it cost? Which people you need to involve in this kind of a project, and what kind of an effort these people need to invest. After you watch this video, it will be clear to you how to run this project and what it takes to succeed with this kind of an implementation. This video is basically made for beginners, so if you're doing this kind of an implementation for the first time, this is the right video for you. And if you want to learn more about ISO 27001, subscribe to my channel by clicking this button below. So here are a couple of things that you have to prepare before you start your ISO 27001 project. The first one is to decide which option you will use to implement the standard. And there are three options. The first option is to implement it completely on your own without any external help. This means that actually you're using your own employees to implement the standard without any consultants, without any tools. The second option is, let's say, a more traditional one, and this is where you use a consultant actually to help you and to guide you through all the steps in the implementation. And the third step is, let's say, somewhere in between these first two options, and this is where you actually use some kind of a tool to help you implement the standard with your own employees using an external guidance. Now, the first option is usually the cheapest one, but it's only feasible if you already have employees with lots of experience with ISO 27001. The second option, using a consultant, is the most expensive option, but on the other hand, it's also the quickest way to implement the standard, and it requires the least of your resources in-house. Whereas the third option is somewhere in the middle. It doesn't cost as much as consultants, and it also requires a certain time from your own employees to implement the standard. But the good thing about this third option is that you actually transfer all the know-how to your own employees, and then you know much better what to do with the standard. Now, which of these options you will choose, this depends primarily on what is your budget, how quickly you need to implement the standard, and some other factors. Which actually brings me to my other points for this video. And one of these is how long does it take to implement the standard? This really depends on the size of your company. So if you have a small company of, let's say, a dozen or so employees, it will probably take a couple of months to do it. And really it depends. I mean, if you use a consultant, it will be maybe a month or two earlier. If you do it completely on your own, a little bit maybe longer. Now, if you're a company of, let's say, 100 employees, this will probably take around 6 months or so. Whereas if you're a larger company, let's say 500 employees, this is probably going to take a year or so. Okay, the next thing you have to decide is who is going to participate in this kind of a project. The first role that you need is a project manager. And this should be someone who has already some experience with IT. He or she doesn't have to be a very experienced IT expert, but someone who has at least some knowledge about the IT, but also knowledge about business processes in the company. And if you use some kind of a help with some kind of tools, this person does not need to be experienced in ISO 27001. This is something that can be learned along the way. The next role that is very important is a sponsor of the project. This means someone from the senior management who will support this project, who will help this project manager if the project gets stuck. And unfortunately, these kind of projects very often get stuck because there is no, let's say, commitment from other people in the company. The next role is a so-called internal auditor, so someone who will do the audit of what you implemented, how you implemented the standard before the certification audit is done, and this is also a mandatory role for doing the implementation. And finally, you will also have to involve several of your, let's say, mid-level managers, like heads of the departments, who will help you with the risk assessment and who will also help you with reviewing security policies and procedures. Now, for a smaller company, this project manager will have to invest something like 20% of his or her time, so basically 1 day per week for this kind of a project throughout the whole implementation. Internal auditor will probably have to spend 1 or 2 days for doing this one internal audit. Senior management probably around 10 to 20 hours through the whole implementation of the project, and heads of the departments probably around 20 to 30 hours for the whole duration of the project per each of the head of the department. Now, how much does it cost to implement ISO 27001? Unfortunately, this is not the off-the-shelf product that you can simply purchase and be done with it. Rather, this is a project which has several elements of the cost. And basically these elements are the cost of training, the cost of external service or some tools, the cost of your own employees' time, the cost of potential security technology that they'll purchase, and also the cost of the certification if your company goes for the certification. Now, with regards to training, typically these training courses cost around a couple of $100, maybe above $1,000. When it comes to cost of a consultant, usually for a smaller company, let's say in the United States, this is around $10,000, maybe $20,000. Whereas if you use some kind of a tool to help you implement the standard, this is usually between $1,000 and a couple of $1,000s. With regards to the time of your employees, this is something that you have to calculate yourself based on the salaries that you're paying out. For security technology, from my experience, in most cases, companies already have all the technology they need, but what they do not have and what they actually get through ISO 27001 is basically a better way to use this existing technology. Meaning that in most cases you will not have to purchase any new technology, security technology, because of ISO 27001. And finally, the cost of certification. Again, this depends on the size of the company, but for, let's say, smallest companies in the United States, this is around $7,000. Let me conclude this video with a couple of key success factors for ISO 27001. First of all, you need top management support, because without this kind of a support, your project is most probably never going to succeed, because without enough money, without enough people, you will probably get nowhere. The second one is to get knowledge. If you don't know exactly what's ahead of you, what's required of you, it will be extremely difficult for you to run this kind of a project. Then it's also very important to run the implementation as a project. You cannot simply run it as a kind of a side job within the company, because it's never going to succeed. You need to have a clear picture of who does what are the milestones, what are the outcomes, because otherwise you'll get nowhere. And finally, you need a very good project manager, the right person in this place, because otherwise, if this is someone who doesn't know how to run project or doesn't have enough skills, then you'll get into problem. So I hope this was helpful, and if you want to learn more about the basics of ISO 27001, you can sign up for this free ISO 27001 Foundations course. It provides you with more information about how the standard is structured, what are the steps in the implementation, what to expect, and so on. So after watching this free course, you will be much better prepared for the project that you're planning for.